Hello, my dear students. How are you? I hope all are good. Welcome back to another class. Today, let me start English chapter number 13. गरीब की है power of curse. So, is it right to tease the people who are poor? क्या ये सही है जो लोग गरीब है, जो व्यक्ति गरीब है, उसको टीज करना, उसको परेशान करना? What can you do for the people who live below the poverty line? So, read the story. In a village of Chandpur, मुंशी राम सेवक वॉज अ वेरी रिच मैन. चांदपुर गांव में मुंशी राम सेवक बहुत अमीर आदमी था. He could be seen every day seated on a broken bench under a neem tree within the precincts of the open air small police court. Nobody had ever seen him presenting a brief before the tribunal or arguing a case. But everyone called him attorney. Whenever he made his way to the open court, the villagers crowded after him. He was regarded by everyone with respect and trust, and he was renowned for possessing the eloquence of the divine Saraswati herself. ठीक है, ये जो व्यक्ति था मुंशी राम सेवक, ये गांव में एक टूटी हुई बेंच पे पेड़ के नीचे बैठता था और वहां पे सबकी जो है क्या होती थी, वहां पे जन सुनवाई होती थी, सबकी जो है दुविधा परेशानियां सुनता था. बट इट वॉज ओनली मेंटेनिंग अ फैमिली ट्रेडिशन. वो केवल एक अपना फैमिली जो ट्रेडिशन था उसको मेंटेन कर रहा था. ही हैड नो वेरी ग्रेट इनकम. हिज टीम मींस ऑफ livelihood was provided by widows without family and by old men with lots of money and little sense. The widows handed over their money to him for safekeeping, and widows handed over their money to him for safekeeping, and old men who feared their worthless sons and trusted their will to him. But once any money went into his fist, it forgot the way to come out again. In the same village lived a Brahman widow named Munga. Her husband had been a surgeon in the native Indian battalion in Burma and had died in battle there. In view of his fine service, the government had bestowed a sum of rupees 500 on her being a widow, and times being hard, the poor creature entrusted all her money to Ram Seva, and begging back tiny sums every month, she managed to eke out a living. Munshi ji had carried out his duty for several years, now with full honesty, but when Munga had grown old without any sign of dying, and he realized that perhaps from the whole amount she did not intend to leave even half to pay for her funeral expenses. He said to her one day, Munga, are you going to die or are not you? Or just say straight out that you will look after your own funeral fees. That day, Munga's eyes were open and she said, give me back the full amount. The account book was ready. Not a piece of it remained according to the book. She violently grabbed his hand and said, you have taken 250 rupees of mine, but I won't let you keep a piece of it. But a poor widow's anger has little effect. She didn't have any influence in the court. She couldn't read or write or keep accounts. To be sure, there was some hope in the panchayat, the village council. The panchayat met people gathered from several villages. Munshi Ram Sevak was ready and agreeable. He stood up in the council and addressed the members. Friends, you are all noble and devoted to the truth. I bow to you all. I am grateful to the court, to you for your generosity and mercy, your charity and love. Do people think I really took the money of this unfortunate widow? With one voice, the councillor said, no, you couldn't do such a thing. Munshiji said, if you all agree that I have stolen her money, then there will be nothing left for me except to drown myself. I am not a rich man, nor can I take pride in being munificent. But thanks to my pen and to your kindness, I cannot call myself needy. I am so petty as to steal a widow's mind. The councillors were unanimous. No, you couldn't do such a thing. The council acquitted him. Munga heaved a sigh and, making the most of it, said to herself, if I am not to get it here, then all right, I won, but I will get it back in heaven. There was nobody now to help Munga listen to her grieving. Whatever whose poverty bestowed, she had to bear them all. She was strong of body, and if she had wanted, she could have worked hard. But from the day the panchayat gave its judgment, she swore the wouldn't work. Now she was obsessed with the tough thought of her money. All day and all night, walking or sitting, she had only one idea to inveigh against Munshi Ram Seva. Gradually, her mind gave way, bare-headed, bare-bodied, with a little hatchet her hand. In her hand, she would sit in desolate places. She abandoned her hut and was seen wandering around the ruins in a cremation ghat along the river. Dish evil, red-eyed, grimacing crazily, her arms and legs emaciated. When they saw her likes, the people were frightened. Now no one teased her even for fun. Whenever she came out in the village, women shut the doors of their houses. Man slunk away and children ran off screeching. But there was one child who didn't run away, and that was Munshiji's son, Ram Gulam. The village one-eyed and lame man hated the sight of him. He would keep after Munga, clapping his hands and taking the village dogs with him, until the poor woman, utterly bewildered, would flee the hamlet. Having lost her mind along with the money, she had earned the title of the local mad woman. She would sit alone, talking to herself for hours, expressing her intense desire to harm Ram Sevak, and when her theater reached its climax, she would turn her face towards Ram Sevak's house and shriek the terrible words, "I will drink your blood." Munshiji was a man of great courage and tenacity. But when he heard Munga's awful words, he was scared. We may not be afraid of human justice, but the fear of God's justice resides in every man's heart, Munga's. Dreadful night, wandering sometimes inspired such reflections, and Ram Sevak's mind, and even more in his wife's. Nagin was a very shrewd woman. She advised her husband about all his business dealings. She was as brilliant in speech as in writing. One midnight, when Munshiji had gone to sleep, suddenly Munga let out a shriek right on his doorstep and told, "I will drink your blood. मैं तुम्हारा खून पी जाऊंगा." Munshiji was electrified by her horrible peals of laughter. His legs shook with fear, his heart thumped, gathering up his courage with a great effort to open the door and woke Nagin. The two of them tiptoed to the threshold, and peeking from the door, they saw Munga's dim figure lying on the ground. They heard her panting. The night passed, the door was shut, but Ram Sevak and Nagin spent the hours sitting up. Munga could not get inside, but who could stop her voice? Her voice was the most terrible thing about her. The news got around the village that Munga was squatting on Munshiji's doorstep. The villagers took great delight in his embarrassment and lots of fakes. Whole flocks of people gathered around at once. Little Ram Gulam didn't like this crowd, and he got so angry with Munga that if he had the power, he would have flung her into a well. Ram Gulam collected the dung of their cow in a pot and hung it at the poor woman. Some of it is flashed on the onlookers too. Munga was completely covered, and the people hastily retreated, saying, "This is Munshi Ram Gulam door, where you can expect such fine manners." So Munshiji congratulated his son on this ingenious and appealing way of getting rid of that good for nothing crowd. The wool mob finally disappeared, but Munga lying there exactly as before. That night, Munga neither ate nor drank anything, and once again Munshiji and Nagin lay awake until morning. By now, Munga is holy and laughing, but he had much less frequently. The people of the household assumed that the worst was over as soon as it was daylight. Munshiji opened the door and saw Munga lying motionless. It is impossible to describe the sensation this event produced in the village and the extent of Ram Sevak's disgrace. Whatever prestige he had been able to maintain vanished. Munga had come to die on his doorstep. She knew she could accomplish much alive, but dead she could do a great D. Munshi Ram Sevak was versed in law. According to the law, he was innocent. Munga had not died according to any legal instance. An example of it could be found in the Indian Parallel Court. Throughout the day, Munshiji and his wife consoled themselves with such reasoning, but as soon as it was evening, their rationalizing pattered out. Fear took hold of them. When darkness fell, as the hour turned late, this fear grew all the stronger. They had left the front door open by mistake, and not one of them was daring enough to get up and shut it. Finally, Nagin took a lamp. Munshiji, his ex, and Rambulan, the skickle, and the three of them, quacking and shrinking, went to the door. After closing the door, the three of them went into the kitchen and began to cook something. But Munga had got under their skills. Seeing their own shadow, they had jumped sure it was Munga. It seemed to them that she was sitting in every dark corner. In the kitchen, they had set several large clay pots for flour and pulse. And there were some old wrecks lying around too. Driven by hunger, a mouse came out looking for the grain. The mouse crept under the wrecks with a rustling sound. The way those wrecks were spread out, they looked exactly like Munga's skinny legs. When she saw them, Nagin jumped and let out a shriek. Closing his head completely, Munshiji sprang for the door and Rambulan started running and got entangled in his father's lap. Just then, the mouse emerged, and when they saw if they recovered their wits. After they had eaten, the three of them came into the bedroom, but even there, Munga did not leave them alone. They were talking, enjoying themselves, but even in these diversions, Munga's image refused to leave their minds. The very slightest step would startle them. If there was a rustling of leaves, the hair would stand up and on all three of them. At midnight, Nagin was startled from the sleep. It seemed to her chat Munga with her red eyes and sharp pointed teeth. Was sitting on her chest, Nagin screamed. She started running towards the courtyard like a mad woman, and suddenly she fell senseless to the ground, sweating all over. Munshiji had been awakened by her yell, but he was so frightened he didn't open his eyes. Like a blind man, he felt his way to the door. After a long while, he found it and came into the courtyard. Nagin was lying on the ground. Fear of Munga had killed her. While Munga lived, she had always feared Nagi's hissing, but sacrificing her own life, she could now take Nagi's. Having done away with Nagin, Munga was not going to leave Munshiji alone. At every moment, her image remained before his eyes. Wherever he might be, his mind always harked back to her. Like a prisoner in solitary confinement, somehow or other, he managed to get through the next 10 or 12 days. At the end of 2 weeks this morning, ever Munshiji changed his clothes and with his mat and satchel went to the open court. Today's expression was a little brighter today. He thought his client would knock around him. They had condoled with him and he had shed a few tears. Then there would be an abundance of forced closures, settlements and mortgages, and he had been rolling in money. Full of these thoughts, he reached the court. मतलब ये सारे थॉट जो उनके दिमाग में चल रहे थे और कहाँ पे पहुंचे वो कोर्ट में. But there, instead of the abundance, the mortgages and the flood of forced closures and the merry greeting of clients, he encountered the sandy wastes of the disappointment. He sat for hours with his satchel open, but nobody came near him or even inquired about how he was. Not only were there no new clients, but very old ones whose business Munshiji's family had handled for generations. Today hid their faces from him. After wasting his whole day at the court, Munshiji went home, sunk in worry and disappointment. As soon as he came close to the house, Munga's image rose before him. He was so nervous that when on opening the door, 2 dogs, shut in by Rambulan, came rushing out. He completely lost his wits, let out a shriek and fell sunless to the ground. What happened to Munshiji after this is not known. For several days, people saw him to go to the court and come back drooping. After that, he went off to the shrine of Badrinath and was not seen for several months. One day, a sadhu came to the village. On his forehead ashes, looks longer, matted a clay water pot in his hand. His countenance supposedly resembled Ram Sevak's, and his speech also was not much different. He sat in the meditation beneath a tree. That the night smoke rose from Ram Sevak's house. The glow of a fire was visible, and then a burst of flame. As for Ram Gulam and Munshiji disappeared, he went off to live with an uncle and stayed there a while. But no one there could put up with his ways. One day he was digging up radishes in somebody's field. The owner gave him a few slaps. This made him so angry that he went into the man's granary and set it on fire. It burned down completely and thousands of rupees went up in smoke. The police investigated and Rambula was arrested. For this offense, he is at a present in the reformatory at Shuna. So everyone, the chapter is on here. I hope you all are very well understand full chapter. We will meet to the next class. Thank you everyone.